What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Every Dad Podcast. You have just found our wives' favorite podcast. I am going to say it. Blake told me not to say it, but I'm going to say it now. It's just Blake and I. Ryan and Rob are out of the country, and they're out of the coffee bar. And so it's just Blake and I today. We were having a good, fun conversation. And Blake, you look great.
Again, that's a weird thing for a man to say to another man, but thank you, I think.
So I actually had an opportunity to not say it a second time, and I chose to say it again.
I warned you.
And it's because I
warned you I wouldn't like it the first time, and I didn't. I liked it less the second time.
You did. You liked it less?
Mm-hmm.
So you hated it?
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Well, I can live with that. So today, we are going to just jump straight in. We're having an awesome conversation about being a first-time dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually, as I was kind of thinking about the episode, really kind of the thought of like, help, I'm about to be a first-time father.
Yeah. Came
to mind. So you and me, both of us have children, pretty similar amounts. And so
you've been a new dad way more than I've been a new dad.
I have been all right, so this is an honest question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have twins, does that count as, have I been a new dad 4 times or 5 times?
Oh man, I don't think it matters. I mean, you're a new dad to 5 kids, but
I'm a new dad to 5 kids. I like it. Okay. So because we are both relatively new dads, I feel like this would be a topic that we would be able to shed maybe just a little bit, if nothing else, practical advice on what not to do from our own personal experiences, from maybe the hospital, like all the way through to, I guess, really our experience stops at how old our kids is, right? So 14 months and then 6 years.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about being a first-time father, how do you do it?
Well, I'd say by this, like by the seat of your pants. I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, great, we're having a baby. Maybe, hopefully, if you're in the right situation.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's like, oh no, what's happened? But I think you always think you have more time than you do, right? So it's like, okay, I got 9 months to prepare, and then all of a sudden you have 3 months. You're like, I have not made the best of this 6 months. It's all gone now, and so it's like. You certainly don't want to wait till you're never going to figure everything out. I get that. But you don't want to wait till the last second either to prepare your heart, soul, mind, body, everything for what's about to happen, which of course is just about as life-changing of an event as it could possibly be. So
that is like, I did not even remember that. Like that's one of the probably best, just you do not have nearly as much time as you think. 9 months feels like forever. Mm-hmm. It goes by in an absolute flash. That's crazy.
And and the thing too is like that doesn't stop once the baby's here. So it's like, oh, okay, well what's an example? We want to, we're committed to homeschooling one day. Okay, well I've got 4 or 5 years before I have to start. No, you have to start thinking about that now, because if you get to 4 or 5 and you haven't put any thought into it, what are we going to teach them? How are we going to do it? Is it a co-op homeschool? Like, what are we doing? That stuff has to be thought of well in advance, or else you're just not going to be prepared for it. So, I mean, I think that can be something to consider throughout your entire time being a parent.
Yeah, for sure. No, I again, I think about that. Like, I remember with the first one with Liam thinking like, I have a really long time, and so we started obviously thinking about like names, and we started figuring out like what we wanted to do, and like again, like it's just I would say that's something that no one really prepares you for. I guess it's kind of prescriptive to like every other area of his like life as well. Like you think, not even just fatherhood, but like just in every area of my life, I could probably say that that's true. But I think maybe I thought like this isn't going to be the same, with kid, because you get excited. I don't know about you, like, so, and this is, again, for dads, what was the moment, we might say the same thing, maybe we don't. Was there a moment where it, like, set in that you're going to be you're going to be a dad for the first time. Like, obviously, you find out, like, your wife comes to you and says, hey, you're going to be a dad, right? And that's this overwhelming experience, and it's just, you're so excited, and you start dreaming and but there's a specific moment that it happened for me. So I'm interested to see if it's the same thing or if it's a different answer, like where it goes, okay, like,
this is real.
Now this is like this is a real moment.
I remember being in Dothan, Alabama, playing golf with one of my closest friends, Ben Bryan, who is also an old friend of yours. Yep. And we were not supposed to find out the gender yet. I wanted to be there when we were, but the email or whatever came, or I actually checked the portal or wherever it was and found out that we were having a girl, and was not going to wait until I got home. So she called me as we were finishing our round of golf in Dothan and told me that we were going to have a girl. And I remember being excited and happy, and it wasn't that long of a phone call. She was busy with family or something, and I put the phone down. And about a minute later, Ben was talking to me, and I realized I wasn't hearing a single thing he was saying. Wow. And I actually got emotional, and like my eyes started watering because I realized, holy crap, like I'm going to be responsible for this little girl. And I realized in that moment how much I wanted to be a girl dad. I didn't really have a preference, at least if you'd asked me at the time, but I was so excited at the idea of being a girl dad. And then it's like, okay, now that's when I started picturing things, and you start thinking about the names, or like, what is this thing going to be like?
Yep, that's exactly the moment.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't want to bait you, like, and but like, yeah, no, that for me it was the gender reveals every time. So we did for everyone, we did a baseball themed gender reveal, and so obviously baseball, throw it up, powder, blue. And if you're me,
blue,
and blue. But yeah, it's that moment for me, and maybe it's exciting the whole time. But for dad, like when you find out, like, man, I'm having a girl or I'm having a boy, now you can start really dreaming towards names, and you can start dreaming towards activities and things. And
I
you get
no idea how people. I have no idea how people wait until birth to figure out the gender. It was never a consideration. I told you, Ashley literally couldn't wait till I got home to tell me. That's how excited.
If you do that, more power to you. Like, there's absolutely no right or wrong way to do it. But for me and my
how about this? We just had like a week ago, some close family friends on my wife's side. They had, I think it's like their 4th or 5th kid or something. So they've been through this like you. And they had gone, I want to say 36 or 37 weeks not knowing the gender. They were going to wait. And they went to like one of their final doctor's appointments, and the doctor accidentally let it slip what the gender was. So they made it the entire time, and they were devastated. They were so excited for this like surprise and what it would be like to deliver a child and like meet that baby for the first time and have no idea what they were getting. It's like, that's brutal.
Oh, no.
So
that's not good at all. That is bad.
So that was definitely it for me. There are I guess what would be like the immediate things that changed. So I looking through kind of what you sent me, obviously you go from you're living your own life, you're doing whatever you want to do, and hopefully if you're married, you two are you're working on your marriage or traveling or whatever it is. You've got all the time in the world to go on dates and just be together, and then all of a sudden your time gets crunched in a way that you certainly never would expect. And if you're doing it right, hopefully as a man you're already protecting and providing and serving your wife, but now that is just taken to a whole nother level because the preciousness of what this life now is, and it really is true when you drive home from the hospital or wherever you're at for the first time. It's like, I cannot believe they let me leave this place with this kid. I have no idea what I'm doing now.
Did you find yourself driving extra careful?
Oh, yeah, and it was dark too. It was late. It wasn't until later in the evening when we got to go home, and we live maybe 6 minutes from the hospital, and I was nervous. I was so scared. Yeah.
Yep. I made the commitment that I would never text and drive ever again. Not that I ever did before.
Yeah.
But I made the commitment that I never would, and I would never drive even a half of a mile per hour over the speed limit.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a 6-year-old, so that has been 6 years that I have said that.
Yeah. So those are other than the obvious, I'd say the biggest change or the thing that struck me that I wasn't as prepared for, and luckily we did get ahead of this in time because we've got great friends around us that have been through this, like you and Catherine, and other close friends of ours. You know, it's easy to say you're going to be a protector, you're the provider, encourager, whatever. I'm going to add a bonus word in there, and it's researcher. I was not quite ready for just how much research you would have to do in order to be prepared to be a dad, because I don't care what anybody says, no one's going to love your kid in this world, at least, as much as you do.
Yeah.
So when I say this, I'm talking about every facet of life, and the area in particular would be like medically, right? So I think it starts with giving birth and what that process looks like. And I think in America, we honestly suffer from like a trust the experts type syndrome where, oh, well, this is what everybody else does, or this person has the right, abbreviation in front of their name, so they must know what they're talking about. And not to take away from any, of the brilliant doctors or whoever that you may be lucky enough to be working with, but again, there are these systems and organizations and even bureaucracies and things in place that this is the status quo, or this is the way we do things. And I would just highly encourage everybody to just really, really be inquisitive and critical and ask difficult or uncomfortable questions. You're not crazy for asking those questions or wanting to do things that are outside of the box. And again, that started for us with, okay, what does this pregnancy look like? I was amazed, Ashley, and there's, again, I'm not giving you there's no right or wrong way necessarily to do this. I mean, if at the end of the day, any woman that delivers a baby is incredible. I think Ashley had a goal early on because of some influence of some friends to, hey, I want to do this naturally. I want to do this at the best of my ability, understanding that there may be hoops to jump through or things come up. I want to do this naturally the way God intended to and avoid some of the, whether it's epidural or all these different things. And okay, if we're serious about that, what does that look like? How do we prepare for that? So it's, there were several books that we went through and testimonies through other friends on, hey, this is what it's going to look like. If you want to do it differently, and especially like in a hospital environment or something, here's some of the challenges you're going to face. But if you're serious about it, you can do it. Yeah. So it's all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. My wife, we did four in the hospital. And then this last one, little Noah, he is 8 months old, and for that one, Catherine said, "You know what? I am going to do a home birth. I'm going to do it completely naturally." And the story of that is absolutely worth telling.
Yep.
But it because it gives me, which is correct, no credit. But we had made the decision. I was going to do all of the research. I was going to be the birthing coach. We were going to do a home birth. She had a midwife that walked her through the whole process. And just to save a lot of time, it was a Wednesday night, and she had already had labor pains and had started contracting. I think 2 days before that, but because she had already had 4, she knew her body pretty well, and so she kind of knew okay, this is still manageable, and so we had this long list of things, that we needed to do once she started kind of going into kind of a soft labor to prepare, fill up the tub and, just do a bunch of stuff, put the tarp down and everything. And so Wednesday night, I'm, a minister at the church, and so I am preaching to the student ministry. I get a text that says, right before I go up to preach, that says, "Hey, tonight's the night. No worries. What I need you to do is get the kids home, get all 4 of them in bed, and then we can start filling up the tub and we can start running through your list of responsibilities." Well, we had gone through my list of responsibilities, so I was very clear on what my list of responsibilities were. I had 5 or 6 very big ones that needed to be done. And I get home. I have put the twins down. I have gotten the big boys, the bigger 2, in their room, and I had gone back out to the room or to the kitchen to grab grapes and a couple of other little items so that I could go back in. I could, sing the songs that I sing. I'm not going to sing them for you right now.
Thank you.
Pray for them, and then go back and start getting my list ready. I hear not a yell like you would assume, not a scream like would be normal or, understandable, but I just hear this, "Ty, I need you to come into the room. I need you.
Just calm, cool, and collected. I have been here before.
Honestly, like it shocked me. It was like, I mean, does she need me to bring her phone charger, or like that was the kind of vibe I was getting. Like I need my phone charger kind of vibe. And she is on the ground, and she is saying, "I am having a baby. I need you to call the midwife and get her here right now." And I'm not making this up. It was that calm. So I do. I get on the phone. I call. By the time the midwife answered the phone, baby Noah was in her hands.
Yeah.
And he was still in the sack.
Which is super rare,
Still
right?
had the umbilical cord, obviously. Like,
isn't it really, really rare to be born in the amniotic sac?
So rare that we did not know. It's not like we,
What does that look like? That is so cool.
It looks like a baby, but like it kind of in a sack. And
I guess it was a dumb question.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'll tell you what it looked like. It looked really scary to me because, naturally we broke it as quickly as we could. We were like, we need to make sure that the baby's breathing and all this. Then the midwife obviously starts throwing some logic at us and is like, well, he did do it for 9 months. Like, what would have been a couple more minutes to take a couple cool photos? But whatever, no worries.
A photo would be wild.
So, anyways, so we did that. The midwife gets there. The midwife's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "What? What do you mean? What happened? Like, she gave birth. I don't know what to do with my hands right now. This is the craziest experience of my life." This is the craziest part. Shows how much of a hero my wife is, how tough my wife is, and also how just crazy the night was. Again, my wife is holding our brand new baby boy in her arms on our floor after she's just given a completely natural birth. Understand that. I go put a movie on, which is completely abnormal to what our usual routine is, but I felt like the current circumstances made it okay for the exception. And I come back in, and Catherine looks at me and says, "Well, honey, I know it's a Wednesday. You've had a long day. Would you like to go shower before you take care of some of the stuff that we need to do?" And I'm like, "What?" Like I to this day I never have felt crazier or more like it wildest experience ever. Not a normal experience for help. I'm a new dad's, right?
And that would be the extreme for sure.
That would be the extreme.
And you rightly said you deserve zero credit. However,
I was hoping you would say like, no, you deserve at least some credit.
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
The fact that you guys, again, I know it was your 5th kid, and fortunately you guys have been through it on some level. Not, it's a new circumstance, but Catherine or someone like her, or just these moms in general, I think we do have the ability to help encourage them to do these types of things. I know early on, I'm pretty sure it was you guys who recommended a great book to us, Natural Childbirth, which details the Bradley method. And there's just a ton of great information that we used in that. If we want to do this naturally, like, what does that look like? How do we do it? And there is a role that we play. And so Catherine was obviously comfortable to the point where she trusted you. She trusted what you guys could accomplish together. And there is a role there. We didn't do a home birth like that. We still went to the hospital to do it. And but it for us, when I think back on it, it became such a spiritual experience. Like, it was basically 2.5, 3 hours of one big long worship prayer. I mean, at one point we had worship music playing for the majority of the time that Ashley was laboring, and even through when she was, pushing, and basically till Danny came. And we had a lot of really special moments. Like, I can remember where the nurses, in between contractions and pushing, they were singing some of the songs and the lyrics alongside us together. And I was like, what a peaceful, beautiful place that this is becoming. And just a picture of, one of God's many miracles that He can do. So that's where it starts, right? Like, how do we get there? Okay, you make it through that process. Now what? Now you got to start parenting the thing, right? Now it really begins. Like, this was all fun and new, and yes, it's amazing to see your baby for the first time and what that looks like and how beautiful it is in its own way. But like, what does this look like? And I mentioned in America specifically, I think it's okay to distrust some of the things that maybe are more mainstream, and I am encouraged in some ways of where certain things are going in the culture, actually, to be positive for a second. And for the first time in a long time, I'll go back. Okay, I'll start it this way. If you look just strictly where we're at right now in this moment, and you look at like some of Trump's appointments, which we can get in. Some of them I'm like, what are we doing? Some of them like, these are really interesting and great actually. So, I think of JFK being appointed to HHS, or even Jay Bhattacharya being appointed to NIH, and some of these new 3-letter organizations where, if this is anything remotely close to what I'm hoping it's going to be, like there's going to be some major shakeups that I think will bring a lot of positive change. For the first time, it's not crazy to talk about food dyes, right, and the things we're eating, or these ultra processed foods or vaccines, and like it's okay to ask these questions. It's not 5 years ago I would have never thought that I would be a staunch anti-vaxxer, yet here I am. And I'm not saying I'm even right about all of it, but it's not crazy. And we have friends and people who we can go, hey, what was this like for you? What have you learned? What are some resources? And that's where I mean, when I talk about being a researcher, again, no one's going to love your kid as much as you. Dive into this stuff, because you can have life-lasting impacts from a very, very early age that you may not even realize.
Yeah, that's very, very, very sage wisdom there. And I think, and it's not even you saying that one of those is right versus another one, but that doing your research.
I mean, I'll give you my strong opinion.
Sure.
But,
I'm not exactly. So I think wrapping this all up, putting a bow on this thing, starting from the very beginning, making it very practical. You don't have as much time as you think you're going to have. Prepare, plan ahead, cherish your wife, spend time getting to know her, spend time serving her through the pregnancy. You can never serve and be selfless enough. She, even though you are, having moments where it's real, it is real for mama every single second of every single day. Changes everything about her anatomy, changes everything about her, mentally, changes everything. So for 9 months, she is she is taking care of that baby every single second, and every decision. And so there's nothing that is out of the question, at least in my experience. Serve your wife, take care of your wife, be selfless there. And then again, once we start getting into, the practicals of now I've got to raise, baby, it happens a day at a time.
Yeah.
And it's something that, I think we think, it all happens at once. I have to have it all figured out. I'm learning now, I remember looking up at my dad as a child and thinking, why don't you have it all figured out, right? And I just assumed that my dad and mom, they knew everything and they had everything figured out. Well, they were learning to be an adult as a parent at the same rate that I was being a kid, right? Like I was being a kid for the first time. I was learning and growing every single day. They were being parents for the first time.
Yeah.
And so give yourself some grace, give yourself some slack. It happens, a day at a time. Obviously communicate very clearly with your wife. Be a student of all of the stuff that, like you said, you can be. And then there's actually there's another, I talk about him a lot, but a pediatric surgeon here in the area. And I love that I can just send him a picture of what's going on with my kid.
Yeah.
And he'll either say, and I know because of his personality also, that if it's a really big deal and he's like even a hint of like, you might want to go get that checked out, I'm like, we need to go right now. But the amount of times that I've sent him a picture and he's like, you're good.
Yeah.
But his quote is, it's really hard to kill a kid on accident. And they're resilient. They, you think, and I guess the reason I say that is like when I changed the diaper for Liam for the very first time, I held him in my arms and I'm like, man, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I felt like he was this like glass thing, right? And now 5 and I'm like, right? Like,
yep.
And I'm realizing very quickly, right? Like that, that it happens a day at a time. There's mercy, grace. They're very resilient.
Yeah, and understand that there will be scares. So 14 months in, we've had our first some major scares. We learned what breath holding spells were. Unfortunately, little Danny has had a couple of them now. And the first time it happened, I unfortunately experienced what it was like to think for an uncomfortable amount of time that my child was dead in my arms, passed out, crying to the point where she passed out and have no idea what happened.
Wow.
She just went lifeless, and eventually, of course, came back, popped up, and then that was followed the next week by what a lot of people in the medical field that we reached out to said was one of the worst allergic type reactions they've ever seen. And it was a long story. Lots of this was connected, and to the point where she was almost unrecognizable, so swollen and just rashes head to toe. And within weeks, all of that is cleared up, gone, and she's back to almost perfectly normal. And so it's like that stuff's going to come up, and we're some parents are dealt really difficult cards, and yes, through tragedies or certainly like these real medical events that last for a long time. But you're going to have scares, and you don't realize how much you love your kid until some of that happens. So you almost just have to understand, like, that's going to happen at some point. And life is fragile. They're indestructible in many ways, but they also can be pretty fragile. And so you want to cherish every second you get.
Yeah. Well, I think super valuable conversation. So if you are a new dad, or you are about to be a dad for the first time, or you're about to have a new kid, good refresher. If you know someone that is, send this to them. And we don't have it all figured out, but between the two of us, we have seen a lot of things, as we've talked some about in our episodes here. And we probably can also tell you a little bit of what not to do for the first time. I know I certainly can. And so thank y'all so much for watching. And as always, please make sure that you're following us on YouTube especially. Subscribe, leave a comment, review it, like it, send it to your friends. And as always, also, we want to shout out Sola Coffee Bar for letting us film here, What's Up Media, Highland Park Baptist Church, and all of those that are involved. It's been such an amazing journey. It's always such a wonderful time getting to film this, and we will talk to you guys next time.
See you next time on the Every Dad Podcast.